Well, hello everyone and welcome to another episode here on the MIgardener channel. So today I'm going to be talking about a topic that a lot of people have brought up and discussed on a lot of forums and stuff that I'm a member of, and I thought I'd make a video on it because it really is important, and I think that it's something that as a culture and as a society we actually need to grasp the concept of, and that is the concept of sustainability. Now, my channel, I like to promote simple, sustainable, attainable, and if you haven't heard already, that is simple gardening information that will help you build a sustainable garden and basically a sustainable source of food. And the information is attainable, which is it's free for everyone. But part of that is the sustainable part. And so I really needed to analyze the way I thought sustainable, what sustainable meant. And this is a term that a lot of people toss around on an everyday basis, and companies are tossing around. And I think that there are a lot of people that are doing good, but there's also a lot of people that are doing bad. Just like anything in this world, you have a couple bad apples. And there are companies that are tossing around the word sustainable as in one tiny portion of their company might be sustainable. And so if you look at these companies that I won't mention, but I've noticed a lot of them using this term, you know, oh, we're going green, we're going sustainable by switching over to, we're going paperless. That's a good example, is we're going paperless. But you have to look at also, is their entire business sustainable, or are they simply using that 1% of their business to sell more product? And I think that really does shine a light on where we are as a culture, and that is that we like to act like we're sustainable. We all like to say that we're doing good, but there's a big difference between actually saying good and actually doing good. And that's what I wanted to talk about today, is what it actually takes to be sustainable as a gardener. Now, I admit that my garden is not 100% sustainable. It's not everything that goes into it is of my own, because a lot of what people say is sustainable is you take all of your green stuff, which I do. All my green stuff goes into my compost pile, which is why I decided to do this by my compost pile. Because you look here at this beautiful compost pile. This compost pile is rich. It's full of life. I take our old potting mix that we had bought at an earlier time, and I mix it in with compost. I re-amend it. I give it back. Anytime that I can scrape out, like old gutters that have had leaves fall in them, I put everything into a compost pile to break down so I can feed my plants. And then the plants, ultimately, once they grow, whatever's a waste product, whether it's leftover food, food scraps, whether it's just green tops, such as potatoes, I'll compost the tops and we'll eat the potatoes, or tomatoes, stuff like that. I will compost the plant material to turn into more compost. However, I find that I don't produce enough compost to feed my entire garden, and that is rather unfortunate. So what I'm going to be doing next year is switching over to a much more sustainable method, and that is using all compost tea. Now, my beds are amended with pure compost. As I've said before, I'm very proud of it to say that I don't grow in any foreign soil, soil that I brought in from someplace else. We had to at the cottage garden, because the soil was very, very heavy clay, and I wanted positive results. So that was something we had to do initially. But here at the house, we filled all of our beds with pure compost that we'd made here ourselves from leaf clippings and leaf mulch and grass clippings, and that had made the soil for these beds. Now that the beds are topped off and they're nice and full, what I would like to start doing is remineralizing and re-amending the soil using compost tea. And that's something that I encourage everybody to do, is to use smaller amounts of compost, make compost tea, and water your plants with that, because it is a challenge to have to find and source enough compost to basically put back in your beds. And that's something that on a personal sustainable basis, a lot of people argue. A lot of people say, oh, it is sustainable because you're recycling grass clippings. But there are some people that argue, well, it's not sustainable because if it was only you in the world and you could not have access to someone else's waste, because that is what I do. I go down the street, I pick up grass clippings because they're going to get picked up by some trash company, thrown into a landfill, or taken to a waste management place where they can compost it down and sell it. So I basically go along, I ask them, hey, can I have your grass clippings? Most people look at me like I'm a foolish person, like I'm crazy. And I say, yeah, take them, whatever, So their trash is my treasure. But in the sense of personal sustainability, it's actually not sustainable because you're using someone else's resources for feeding your garden. So what I want to get doing that you'll see next year is I have the first basis kind of covered. I have my own soil. My beds are topped off. They are ready to go. It's about a foot of beautiful soil, and that's plenty to grow vegetables in. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use all of this compost into compost tea, and I'm actually going to be feeding weekly feedings. And so we'll see how that goes. It's always a learning experience, but I do want to see myself being more sustainable because it's one of those things where you can say I'm sustainable, but you really have to look at your footprint and see just how sustainable you are. See what other things you're impacting, because it can be that you're using compost, but you also might be using a fertilizer like blood meal or bone meal. And that's not sustainable if you're relying on that to feed your plants, because of the fact that it is relying on the cattle industry to support the blood meal, or it's relying on some agricultural firm to produce this fertilizer for you to use to grow your food. So it's just looking into different avenues that you can do yourself versus relying on someone else. And I'm not saying that it's not all bad. Fertilizer, if it's organic fertilizer, if it's growing your plants and it's feeding your family, that's great. And I always like to challenge myself, because the motto of my channel is grow big or go home. It's not saying that if I am not 100% sustainable that I'm disappointed in myself. It's a matter that if everyone did that 10% better, if everyone kind of stepped up their game to be a little bit more sustainable in some way, shape, or form, that as a whole it would benefit more than we are now. And hopefully someday we can get to 100% sustainable. I'm not sure if that's ever attainable. I'm not sure if that is something that we can go back to because we're so dependent on so many systems, but it's wishful thinking, because I think anything is reversible. I think anything at all is reversible if there's enough people to push behind it. So that's my spiel on sustainability. I think it is wrong that people are using it as a catchphrase to sell more product. I think as consumers we need to be aware of that and really need to look at our companies that we are purchasing from, seeing if they are actually walking the walk and talking the talk. Because I would rather a company tell me that they are completely unsustainable and have me buy their product because I need it, rather than tell me that it's sustainable. I want to support a company that's sustainable, so I'm only buying, I'm actually purchasing from them on the basis of sustainable when they're actually not sustainable. So that's that. Take it for what it's worth. Put your comments and your thoughts in the comments box below with what you think, and I'd be interested to see your take on that. And Zoe is chasing a squirrel. All right, so until next episode, I hope you all enjoyed. Hopefully you were inspired to, hello Zoe. Hopefully you were inspired to think about something in a different light. And I know Zoe came around here to say hello. She's been barking at the squirrels, but come here. Say hi. Say hi right there. Say hi. She's adamant that there's squirrels around because it's fall and all the nuts have fallen down from the trees, and the squirrels are out in force, and she's our little squirrel patrol. So there won't be any nuts being buried in my garden, I can tell you that. But anyway, so hopefully you all enjoyed. Hopefully you learned something new. Hopefully you thought about something in a different light. And until next episode, I will catch you all later. This is Luke from MIgardener, hoping you're growing big or going home. I'll see you next episode. Take care. Bye.